Welcome back to the worldwide leader in sports. If you don't like it, go yourself, because we're not changing. Here's the thing, right? I just don't think you can win with Luka Doncic on your team. I just don't think he's a winner. Yeah, I like where this is going. I like where this is headed. I don't see winning. I don't see winning when I look at Luka Doncic. I don't see it. Well, he has been to the conference finals twice in the last 3 years. You got to give him that. Everybody goes to the conference. Literally everybody goes to the conference finals. Everyone. Well, I don't know if that's Joel Embiid, Anthony Edwards, Shea, all of these guys go to the conference finals. It's not that big of an achievement. Well, actually, none of those guys have gone to the conference finals yet. Yeah. You get what I'm saying, though. He's not a winner like those guys are. If you know? Right, yeah, I get what you're saying. I'll take it a step further, actually. Oh! I think Luka Doncic is actually like a mixture of Carmelo Anthony and Terrell Owens. Okay. I don't really see that one. Well, Carmelo because they both play basketball, right? And Terrell Owens because when you really the driveway, right? Now we could just move on. How about this? I don't think you can win with Kyrie Irving on your team. You can't win a championship with him. No, you can't. If you take out the year that Kyrie Irving actually won a championship, you can't win a championship with him. All right, if you take out the year that he won and the 3 NBA finals he's been to, you just can't make the NBA finals with him. That's what I've been saying all along. You take out the years in which he's done it, he can't do it. Well, and then they traded for RJ Barrett. They traded for RJ Barrett midseason. No, that wasn't them. They traded for Washington. They traded for Washington. Right, George Washington. They traded for George Washington. No, that was a president. It was PJ Jefferson. PJ Jefferson. They traded for him. I gave that a D. That's a terrible trade. Easily a D. Anyone who watches basketball knows that's a D. Bro, I gave it a D because I'm like, the Charlotte Hornets, I didn't even know they were still in the league. I haven't watched one of their games in 6 years. Yeah, we get paid to watch sports, but guess what? I ain't watching it. Hey, Stephen A. Slightly, let me ask you something. Yeah, what's up, Kendrick Bias? Did you beat Dirk one-on-one? Well, I think I could. That's why we're the worldwide leader in sports, baby. They don't do it like us. The Dallas Mavericks are headed to the conference finals, and damn, it feels good. I got to be real with you guys. This one feels nice. The second time in 3 years this team's been to the conference finals, and as of the time I'm recording this, I don't know who is the winner of the Game 7 between the Timberwolves and the Nuggets, but unless the Nuggets win that game, they're the only team who can say that in the Western Conference. Of course, if the Nuggets win, they've also done it twice in the last 3 years. And what has been a gauntlet Western Conference? This isn't like the East, and God bless the East. This isn't like the East where you can have some buys in the first round of the playoffs. You just can. This has been a gauntlet of a conference, a bloodbath in the postseason. And twice in the last 3 years, the Mavericks have been in the conference finals. I mean, really a great achievement. And I'm just going to ramble a little bit here in this video. I'm going to go over pretty much each and every player in this series, just how well all of these guys played, how well the Mavs as a team played, and then maybe a little bit of some Thunder talk at the very end. We got to start with Luka Doncic, who the first 4 games of this series was clearly not at 100% with his knee, was letting the officials, I thought, get to him a little bit. And Lou Dort played some good defense. I'll give him some credit there. But just thought Luka was beating himself in ways that we're not used to, especially in the postseason. First 4 games, 22 points per game, 7.8 assists per game, 4 turnovers, 39% from the field, 31% from 3, and he was a minus 11 in the first 4 games of the series. You fast forward to the last 2, series tied 2-2 going into Game 5 in Oklahoma City. From that point forward, Luka, 30 points per game, 10 rebounds per game, 10 assists per game, 56% from the field, 52% from 3, 90% from the free throw line, and a plus 20 in the last 2 games. Now, I did go to Game 5 in Oklahoma City. I didn't talk any trash. I had a great time talking basketball with the people around me and stuff like that, but there was a tiny moment where I did chat a little trash, and it was at the end of the game when people were giving me some, oh, fuck Luka, fat ass, and I'm like, hey, whoa, I'm not that fat anymore. And they're like, no, I was talking about Luka, and I was like, oh, okay. That makes sense. But I was like, hey, man, you guys don't know what a killer is yet. We'll talk about the Thunder's future here in a bit. You guys haven't seen what a certified killer is capable of doing, and that's exactly who Luka is. In the last 2 games of the series, when he needed to step up and the team needed him, and they needed their superstar to show up to this series because Shea was by far and away the best player at the start of the series, and Luka the last 2 games did MVP things, did best player in the world things to propel his team to a win against the 1 seed in the Western Conference. Just incredible stuff by Luka. I thought his defense was good for most of the series as well, again, and he just deserves a ton of credit for what he did in these last 2 games. Must-win games. I mean, incredible stuff. Then you get to the other star, Kyrie Irving, who I thought, seeing this in person, they smothered him, right? I thought J-Dub, who offensively was a little bit rough in the series, but defensively, I thought he actually did a really good job on Kyrie Irving with all of his size and length. Thunder also sent a ton of double teams and a ton of bodies at Kyrie, so it was a little bit more difficult for him to find his shots that he's used to getting without seeing 2 or 3 bodies at any given moment. But Game 6, second half, the Kyrie Irving we've grown used to, 18 points. And what I like more than anything else, on 18 shots in the second half. Now, you might look at that and be like, oh, that's inefficient. I don't give a fuck. All right, it's Game 6 of the NBA playoffs. Shoot that shit, Kyrie Irving. 18 shots in the second half. I love that. He was a plus 21 as the Mavericks completed their big comeback in Game 6 to win the series. And his vibes are just incredible, man. His vibes are just incredible. As the best player on the team, you're always going to be the de facto leader. Anyone who's ever played sports at any level can tell you that. So Luka really is the leader because the team's going to go as he goes. But Kyrie Irving is clearly the vibes chieftain when it comes to the Dallas Mavericks. Like he's clearly the vet. You know, he's been here. He's won a championship. He's been to the finals. He knows what it takes to win at the highest level. And I just feel like the team builds off of that. There's a confidence level there when Kyrie Irving is there to steady the ship. It's just been great to see. And he just seems so happy. And it makes me so happy. Then, of course, these two guys, man, P.J. Washington, Derrick Jones Jr. P.J. Washington obviously drew the foul there at the end of the game, hit those free throws. I cannot believe there's some discourse. I get it. You're upset that the game ended on some free throws. And if you're a Thunder fan, that's a brutal way for your season to end. That's a clear and obvious foul. I mean, that review, I'll say, in person, I keep bringing up the in-person thing, but it is one funny thing, is the reviews, ESPN, TNT, fuck you guys. The reviews for commercial breaks feels like they last 7 minutes. They last like 10 seconds in the stadium. That was a 5-second review. I mean, that was a clear as day foul. I thought the Thunder made a big mistake challenging that call just because it would have made more sense just to have your timeout. So that way you can advance the ball instead of having to rely on a 3-quarter court heave. And I did get Max Strus vibes from that. It scared the shit out of me. But outside of those game-winning free throws for P.J. Washington, he averaged 17.7 points per game in this series, 8.2 rebounds, 47% from the field, 47% from 3. And in the first 4 games of the series, when I felt like Luka was struggling the most and Kyrie was kind of struggling to get off, P.J. Washington averaged nearly 22 points per game on 51% from 3. Like when the team desperately needed somebody to step up offensively because the Thunder were doing so many things to take Kyrie out and Luka was at 40% with his knee, P.J. Washington stepped up in a major way and was attacking mismatches. They were posting him up against Shea. He was knocking down threes with a ton of confidence. I mean, that was an incredible moment from P.J. Washington in this series. Like, genuinely. He will be a fan favorite in Dallas for the rest of his life because of the performance he just put up in this series. And the same could be said for Derrick Jones Jr., a minimum contract player. He has to be the best minimum contract in the entire NBA. Well, I was saying in the playoffs, he had to be the best in the postseason, but just looking at the totality of the league, I don't know if there's a better non-rookie contract than Derrick Jones Jr. The last 3 games of the series when the Thunder are like, all right, P.J. Washington can't beat us, so basically Derrick Jones Jr., you're going to have to beat us. Nearly 20 points per game from Derrick Jones Jr., 2.7 stocks, 64% from the field, 50% from 3 on 11 field goal attempts per game. I mean, they were going to him. There was times in Game 6 where I was so impressed with how Derrick Jones Jr. just attacked Chet Holmgren at the rim. Just met him at the rim, absorbed contact, finished over him. I mean, it was just a ton of confidence from a guy who's making a minimum salary and has just earned himself a huge pay raise in the offseason. I'm very much hoping that is coming from the Dallas Mavericks. And then the other Derek Lively, a rookie center, 20 years old. The Mavs defense this postseason has been 16.8 points per 100 possessions better when he is on the court. And here's his plus minus for each game in this series. Minus 13 in Game 1. Mavericks got kind of blown out. Okay. Plus 18 Game 2. Plus 16 Game 3, plus 2 Game 4, plus 22 in Game 5, and plus 26 in Game 6 to close out the series. And it's no coincidence. It's no secret why that's the case, right? Because he's just so good defensively. He should not be this good defensively as a 20-year-old. Not just with the blocking shots and contesting shots at the rim, but with how well he moves his feet in space. It allowed the Mavericks to switch. It allowed the Mavericks to be comfortable switching as much as they did in the series to close off driving lanes, to prevent kickouts, to close out on shooters. And Derek Lively being there to help protect the paint and also roam around in space. He was incredible in this series defensively. So much so that I'm like, man, Derek Lively, as he gets better and is more comfortable and starts to understand the game a little bit more, Like, this guy can make all defensive teams. He's that level. Josh Green, I mean, had some great hustle plays over the course of this series. His energy felt very important at times for the Dallas Mavericks. He had some tough buckets, too, like a tough fadeaway over Josh Giddey. Love to see that for multiple reasons. Tim Hardaway Jr., it was a little bit rough at times, as is the Tim Hardaway Jr. experience, but 17 points in Game 2 in a very, very big win where it felt like some of his points were much needed. Like when the team needed going and the team needed some offense, Tim Hardaway Jr. was there to save the day in Game 2. So he deserves a lot of credit for that. And then Daniel Gafford, who, interestingly enough, was a minus in every game in this series. I think part of that has to do with what I was talking about with Derek Lively, where Lively just moves better in space, and Gafford just kind of makes sense as a drop guy or a guy who just helps protect the rim. So this series made more sense for Lively. But he did average 2 blocks per game and 11 points per game. So he did make his presence felt, which was a big thing in this series. And then also we got to give a shout out to Jaden Hardy, who got some minutes in the last 2 games of this series. A 50% assist percentage in Game 6. That's the best of the season for him. 22% in Game 5, which was the 12th best of the season for him. So 2 of the biggest games of Jaden Hardy's life, probably the 2 biggest games of his life, I thought his playmaking shined. And that's a thing that we've sort of, as Mavs fans, have been hoping to see from him. And a pretty good time to get it. I thought over the course of this series and really the last 2 or 3 months of the season, the Mavericks displayed championship-level defense. They held the Thunder to below their season average offensively in every single game besides Game 1 and Game 6. The Thunder, who were percentage-wise the best three-point shooting team in the entire NBA over the course of the season, only shot 33% from 3 in the series. And yeah, there's some shooting luck involved there, but I don't want you to look at that and think, oh, over the course of a 6-game series, the Thunder just didn't get lucky from 3. No. That's not what happened. The Mavericks defense was great. They were incredible. They knew who they wanted to shoot threes. They funneled the ball to those guys. Their closeouts were crisp. Their closeouts were good. And again, this is a lengthy and big team now. So their closeouts are coming with 7 guys with 7-foot wingspans. Dort averaged nearly 7 3-point attempts per game in this series. Like, you have to live with that if you're the Dallas Mavericks. That's offense that you have to live with. Chet, 4.3 attempts per game in this series, 22% from 3. Now, you might look at that and be like, well, you got lucky there because Chet has been a 3-point shooter and he can stretch the floor. I don't think it's a coincidence the Mavericks were cool with Chet Holmgren shooting threes, considering over the last 15 games of the regular season, he was 26% from 3. He's clearly been on a downward trend when it comes to 3-point shooting. The Mavericks knew that. Cason Wallace, 42% from 3 in the regular season, 33% in the second round. The playoffs are just a different beast. And the Mavericks, it's one thing, I talked about this in my last video, so I'm not going to go into length on it, but it's one thing when you're catching the ball in the shooter's pocket in rhythm, you can set your feet and shoot a shot when there's maybe a light contest versus when the ball's moving around, you're scrambling, you're relocating, you're moving your feet, there's a pass there's a kick out, a guy was in traffic and he had to kick it out, the pass might not be accurate, now you have a set guy with a 7-foot wingspan closing out at you as you're shooting. That's a tough shot. That is a tough shot. So if you're just looking at percentages, it might look like, oh, well, the Thunder just weren't making threes they usually do. No, they were tough-ass shots. So an incredible series win for the Mavericks. The Thunder, I want to give them some props here because they are the youngest team in the playoffs. They were the youngest 1 seed in the history of the NBA, and they do have a bright future. Now, I will say it's not a guaranteed thing. Like, there's this, the Thunder will be back. The Thunder will be better than ever. That's never guaranteed. I think they need to be aggressive in what they do in this offseason. They definitely could have been aggressive at the trade deadline. They decided not to do that. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was incredible in this series. Absolutely incredible. His pathway moving forward. I do think defensively he's not as good as maybe everybody thought. He's a good defender. I think I saw that he averaged the most blocks ever by a guard in the postseason during this playoff run, which is nuts. But I think defensively it's a little bit. I mean, this is a guy who got Defensive Player of the Year votes, and I don't think that's a representative of how he is defensively. But I think he needs to shoot more threes. I think that needs to be something that gets added into his game because he was really good from 3 in this series, but he just didn't shoot them. And there needs to be a playmaking spike. And that's a difficult thing to expect, especially for a guy who is going to be entering his 7th year in the league. I know Shai's like the new shiny toy. He's the same draft class as Luka. So I don't know how much more there is to progress there, just from a playmaking standpoint. J-Dub, I thought was really good defensively on Kyrie, but definitely a little bit of a disappointing playoff series for him. It's his first postseason. He's a year 2 guy, so you kind of expect that. You expect things to get better. Chet will be competing for Defensive Players of the Year for sure. I'm not sure he'll ever win one with Victor Wembanyama in the league now, but he is a menace defensively at the rim. I mean, just an absolute menace. And offensively, I think he actually has a bit of a ways to go. I thought he got bullied around quite a bit. And the Mavericks were just super comfortable with having small guys on him. It reminded me kind of Kristaps Porzingis when he was on the Mavericks in their postseason runs when he was here, where it's like, dude, you're fucking 6 or 7 inches bigger than this guy. Can we please do something with it? It felt like Chet couldn't really do anything, and he's offensively he hit a rookie wall months ago offensively. Dort's inability to do anything off the dribble killed them in this series. The Mavericks were just so comfortable aggressively closing out on him and making him do things off the dribble, and he just was not capable of it. Of course, he's also a football player flopping around the fucking court. Anyways, it's a bright future for the Thunder. I think they do need to make some upgrades for sure. It's never a guaranteed thing. And Thunder fans should know this, obviously, because after that young OKC team made the finals, everyone's like, oh, they're going to be here every year for the next 6 years, and then they never made it again. But they got a great fan base. They got a ton of assets. They got a great head coach. Shea's a fucking monster. They're going to be good moving forward. This is good experience. You don't just win. It's very, very rare for a young team to show up and start winning, right? Winning at the highest level. You have to have your battle scars. You have to have your bumps and bruises, and they got one in this series, where I think that they got pretty comfortably outplayed from game one onwards. But anyways, great series win for the Mavericks. I do feel like they got a very good shot at making the NBA Finals, which is just insane to say. 2 Western Conference Finals appearances in 3 years. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're not locked in, I fucking hate you. And I don't use that word often, but I really do.